Welcome, folks, to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Kegley with Kedrick Prince. We'll have Brad Sturdy joining us. He is actually back interviewing players and coaches right now as we speak. Illinois wins this game 77-67. Ked, this game was close until really the mid 50s. And I have to give both teams credit here. Illinois was up 56-55, and all this that was with 10:22 left, and then all of a sudden, Big Z hits a three, Merck hits a three, Boswell gets a couple free throws, Stojakovic gets a couple free throws. Illinois got an 11-point lead. It's now 66-55. Seems like it's going to be Illinois on cruise control, but Minnesota comes back and gets it down to 66-62, and then all of a sudden Merck gets another shot. Tomislav with a three, and Wagler with a three, and it's 74-62. And even with some weird press breaking things, Illinois wins it. I thought both teams showed some heart there, trying to come back, and I thought the Illini showed that while maybe things got a little weird, unlike Illini teams of the last, year or maybe last, off and on that might have gotten a little rattled, this team just kind of puts it back into gear and drives on to the victory.
Well, let's start with this. It's a big win for them to, they get a 10-point win, 77-67. Very workmanlike effort, I think, by the Illini. Great performances all around today. Caden Wagler with 17. He was kind of a quiet 17. Actually, Zonomir with 18, but Keaton with the quiet 17 as well. But to me, Mike, starting this game out, right away it was 6-0, and Brad Underwood called a timeout. And the first thing I thought of was, I wonder if Coach Underwood has been listening to the Illini Guys podcast, because we've talked about how many times Illinois started slow on a Saturday morning, and they just
happened again.
Yes, they're not done well. But this time he didn't sit, and he was working the entire time. And in the post game, he did mention the fact that he thought they were flat. I don't think they were flat. I want to say something, and this is going to be my tone. For the rest of the podcast, for me personally, I don't want to sit and say that Illinois was tired. They looked flat. Let's start giving other teams some credit in the Big Ten. Number one, there's some really, really good coaching, because I think people are so easy to be critical because the team you love and you're nervous, you're caught up in the moment. You don't want to see them lose. I understand it. But let's take a step back. If you're not an Illinois fan or cover Illinois, Iowa went into Purdue and had a chance to beat them. That's one of the top 5 teams in the country. It happens. The coaching in the Big Ten and the players are elite. And Jess Settles said it best. You better get Minnesota right now. These coaches are getting hired and fired because these teams want to win. And they're not all going to lose. At some point, the better teams, we're focusing on the men. And I would just give this one. I want to make this one women's comment. The Illinois women's basketball program was one of the worst in the country. And so what did Josh Whitman do? He hired a really good basketball coach because he wanted to be competitive, Mike. And the same thing with Brett Bielema with football. Lovie Smith was a good hire, but you needed to take the next step. All these other schools are doing the same thing. And these kids, the transfer portal makes it neutral. So I don't care what the score was. If they won 1-0, you take the win and you move on, because teams are better. Everybody's competing. And Illinois is one of the top teams in the country. They're ranked 13th. It's a quad one win if somebody beats you. You're now on everybody's radar for teams to want to knock off. So if you have a flat performance and you don't play hard, you're going to get beat, because there are some really good teams out there.
Yeah, I agree. And, of course, like I said, Minnesota starts off with 2 3-pointers, gets a 6-0 lead, and Brad Underwood calls a timeout and provides some inspiration. So that was good, because it did change around. We didn't see one of those games where Illinois gets down by 10, 12, 14 points, and then they spend their energy trying to dig back. And I thought it was an interesting first half, because Crocker Johnson, who averages 13 points a game, had 17 at the half. So they really got him under control in the second half, holding him to 22. And Illinois shot a dismal 24% from the 3-point line in the first half, but came back and was much stronger with a 57% shooting from the three in the second half. And I think part of that was they did a little bit more of the extra pass and getting it to the open guy. And I think part of it was just, guys are starting to hit those open shots that you need them to hit. But let's dive a little bit for folks who don't have access or don't have it in front of them. We can talk a little bit about the stats. And as Ked was talking about, and I'm going to go through this because there are audio listeners as well, but Mirkovic, ended up having 12 points. And I thought that was an impressive performance with 8 rebounds. And I think the key that we have to think about in the second half is Mirkovic got all 12 of those points in the second half. Stojakovic, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Boswell, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Tomislav, 10 points, 7 rebounds, and an assist. All 10 of those points, folks, were in the second half. So you see Mirkovic and Ivasic, kind of carrying the team a little bit in the second half, and as well as, Big Z carried him in the first half. Wagler, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, typical game for him. Humrickhouse didn't score, but did have a couple of assists. Jake Davis didn't score today, but had a couple rebounds. You had Big Z, 18 points, 13 in the first half, and thank goodness he came in a first half, which was a little sluggish. So he came ready to play, and 9 boards. And the other, I know it's a small thing, Ked, but Petrovic had 4 points on 2 for 4 shooting, had 3 rebounds, showed some hustle, showed some quickness. And man, if you can just start by getting some slivers of time for him that go well, by the time the tournament runs around, if they need him, he might be ready to go there. Any thoughts on the stats as we talked about that part?
Well, I thought the stats were evenly balanced. I thought it was, when you look at them, there was not one guy who didn't, well, I shouldn't say that. I take that back. When you look at the stat, I guess that there's one guy who stood out to me. It was Big Zonomir. And I'm not a in the moment type of guy. I look long term and I look at the body of work. The MVP of this team is going to probably be your freshman, Caden Wagler. Yep. But to me, the most underrated player, the guy I love to watch play, and I wish he was only a freshman, is Zonomir Ivasic. I don't care the fact that he scored 18 points. They was 5 of 8. I can't tell you the last time, and I've been following Illinois since the early 80s, I've ever seen a player that dominant in the paint when it comes to defense as far as blocking shots. I can tell you 6 or 7 times Minnesota saw him and literally ran the other way. They wouldn't do it. And that's a game changer when he's making shots like that, and he's much more mobile and athletic. And I've talked about how fun he is to be around. You watch the guys on the bench. If you know what, you look, he's the one guy, no matter who it is, if they're on a run, if he's not in the game, he's going to be applauding his teammates all the time. I just think he's a good player. I think Illinois got lucky. We talked about Stojakovic, who's a good pickup. I think that's great. And to answer your question, you and I, people are going to look at us, at least look at me like I'm crazy about Petrovic. You can see the glimpses. It's there. The reason he's not playing, I don't know. Only the coaches know. I know there was a stretch going back to the Tennessee game where he missed 2 layups. He turned the ball over, and he was a liability on defense. You can see he started to figure that out a little bit. And I like the fact that Coach Underwood went to him. I like the lineup that he went to get back in the game. He has talent. You can clearly see it. But you're right. He needs minutes. He's going to have minutes because if something goes wrong, and in the tournament, you don't want to have it where Keaton Wagler gets in foul trouble and you don't have him ready to go, to have him ready and be game ready and to be confident enough to go in and put him in the game where he's not making mistakes. So good team win. I don't care about what the score was like. At the end of the day, nobody's going to look at that. They have a chance to be ranked in the top 10 next week. That's what you want. They have a number of home games coming up, Mike, and you need to take care of those home games and maybe still a road game at some place you thought you wouldn't get.
Yep. And I'll go back to Petrovic. I think for the first time this season, you look out there and there was no yeah but moment. I think he played well. He looked like he was playing within himself instead of trying to win the game with one play. So I think he's getting a little more comfortable there. I was very happy with that performance. Let's take a look at some of the overall stats. Illinois shot 41% versus 40% for Minnesota. So really what you saw, in the second half was Illinois played good defense in the first half, but really kind of put the Malachi crunch on, going down, held them to 38% in the second half and ended up at 40% for the game. So a good defense for the Illini. 34% three-point shooting for Minnesota, which was tracking about where they were, but Illinois had a 24% first half and from the three-point line, and then had a 57% in the second half. So I really enjoyed watching the Illini when they shoot 57% from the three-point line. And the free throws were Illinois shot 84 and Minnesota shot 100. I already have read some Minnesota people saying that Illinois got the benefit of every call. I'm going to actually say that particularly in the first half, I thought the refs were great. And overall, there weren't any moments that I was like, are these guys on drugs? So I thought that was a real positive. Turnovers, Illinois had 10, a little bit shaky against the zone press at the end of the game there, but they got over that. Points off of turnovers, 14 to 12 for the Illini. Illini had 11-point rebounding advantage. They had a +6 on the offensive rebounds, 17 to 11. Second chance points, 16 to 15. That's one thing that Minnesota was very good at, particularly early in the game. They had 3 offensive rebounds that resulted in 9 points. So they were effective there. Bench points, Illinois 22 to 5. We knew that Minnesota, their starters play the third most minutes in the whole of NCAA. So we knew there weren't going to be a lot of bench points. Points in the paint, though, Minnesota did win that battle. Fast break points 9 to 7. Blocks, Illinois 4 to 2. Steals, Minnesota 7 to 5. Assists tied at 16. The game was tied 11 times. Illinois obviously was up 21 minutes and 35 seconds of the game, and they ended up with the lead, which is the most important time to have that lead. So it was a really, I thought it was a well-played game. Ked, I'm not going to go off on the referees, so I probably should have told people that before the game or before this podcast so they could take their heart meds. But overall, I thought the Illini played well. And going back to it, I really was pleased by Merkovich in the second half, because I think somebody mentioned in the comments, not only did he play well, but on the offensive end, but he also had some nice defense down the stretch against Crocker Johnson, which he had caused the Illini all sorts of heartache in the first half. So I thought Merck playing well, and then seeing Tomislav come back, because it looked like in the first half he didn't play particularly well, and I thought, wow, we thought he was back, and then he came out and had a really good second half for the Illini.
Mike, real quick, I don't know what you mentioned or what you're getting as far as like the officiating. I said this the very last podcast. I'm going to repeat this again. Officiating is tough. I mean, we talked about that, but I don't like when fans or people, I don't care if it's the fans or media, when you look at a stat sheet and you see one team, and we're going to use today's example. Minnesota was 3-3 for line, and Illinois was 16 for 19. Because some teams shot 3 free throws and versus the team that shot 19 doesn't mean you got cheated. You have to open your eyeballs, the two that God gave you, to see. Minnesota didn't attack the paint very often. They don't have a big guy. They're one of the smallest teams in college basketball. So they're going to shoot mid-range shots. They're going to shoot threes. They're not going to look to go inside a lot. There's nothing there. So this is just one example of somebody looking at the free throw and saying, oh, my goodness, or you're one of those, look at the scoreboard, they got 8 fouls for 0. It doesn't work that way. Some team can be aggressive, and I've said it last time, Mike. Illinois practices that. They are one of the least fouling teams in college basketball. So all the fans out there, you want to make this clip, send it to all the other teams in the Big Ten so the fans can understand that. Mike, I know you do that a lot. Because a team shoots more free throws doesn't mean that you're getting homered. Teams or colleges practice against it, and Illinois is one of those teams. David Merkovic, to him, it's been a while since he's been dominant, where he looked effective in the game, where he looked like he was effective in the game. Excuse me. He had 12 rebounds against Northwestern, but offensively, he was kind of like he hit and miss. He had a quiet, I think, 8 or 9 points. It was really quiet. Today, he had 12. He was 4-10 from the field, and he had 8 rebounds in 32 minutes of action. So kudos to him. They're going to need him. And I mentioned Zonomir, but, Tommy wasn't bad today either. He really wasn't. We got to give him credit. He had 7 rebounds today. And also, let's give credit to Coach Underwood. He had both of those guys in there today at the same time on 3 different occasions for more than 30 seconds. He was really trying to push the right buttons. So you can be critical of coaches and stuff. I mean, we don't always agree with the same thing. I mean, we really don't. I'll tell you right now, I would love to see Petrovic play more, but I'm not there. But I'm going to give him credit. How many times have we talked about seeing the 2 big fellas play together out there with Merkovic? So if I have any concern about the game, I've not found out yet is the status of Andrej Stojakovic. He looked like he was in pain. He didn't go back in the game, I don't believe, after the injury. So hopefully we'll get an injury report from him before we get off this podcast.
Yeah, and just looking at the plus-minus numbers, because people do like it. Now, this stat is a stat that can be radioactive at times. But, you look at Big Z was plus 16. You had Jake Davis at 11. So right there, that's an interesting one. So sometimes it depends on who you're standing next to.
It does.
Keaton Wagler was at 14. Merkovic was 8. And Petrovic was 6. And then you had a bunch of guys, hovering around -1 and -2. So that's a stat that people enjoy. I look at that one with a grain of salt, because if you put me on the Chicago Bulls team or put me next to LeBron, I'm going to have a decent plus-minus, even though I suck. So, there is some of that going on, but it was good to see that. Yeah, you know what? You're gonna see. Actually, I have officiated before, so don't really have a problem with that. But I will tell you, and this is just an aside, I used to always hold the whistle right here and not keep it in my mouth. And I got to be honest with you, if I kept it in my mouth, there were so many times that you'd hold your breath for a second. And then I found that if I had to bring it up for a second, that let me make better calls. But that was just me.
That's a good point. By Jack, sorry.
You know what? I'm going against what everybody said. Ked, I'm not certain about your pain.
What is he talking about? What is he talking about?
I have no idea.
Well, I've been hit there a few times before, but if you want to explain to us what you're talking about, I would love to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I thought, to my way of thinking, I guess the biggest things that stood out to me, as Stojakovic. Oh, I give him credit for not trying to nothing. Just PG. You know what? It depends on how close I can stand to Michael. But the bottom line is to me the 2 biggest points in this game were those runs that Illinois went on, because they went on that first run to go from 56 up 56 to 55 to being 66 to 55. And I thought that was a key. And then when Minnesota responded to close it up, last year's Illini we would have been nip and tuck fighting that thing all the way to the end of the game. And this year's Illini came back with another run, gave it that width that you needed to win the game. And to be honest, it saved them from a couple moments maybe with the press that would have been catastrophic last year. This year, it's no big deal because they put that second run. And I think that second run is a reason why myself, as somebody who's been a Illini fan since, the late 70s. The teams that Illinois has had that have had that type of resilience typically do better in the postseason.
Mike, you know what? Let me ask you, and maybe our listeners out there, are you bored with winning, kind of? Because, I understand what you're saying. I think we just expect to win because we're supposed to be good. And I'm stating that because Tommy said last week that this year's team, he didn't say it was better, but they're better prepared. And what I mean by that, you probably would have lost at Northwestern. You probably would have lost at Iowa. And today, you know what? You make adjustments last year, and you still get the loss. You look at some of the losses they had last year. It's different right now. They're winning. But people say, "Oh, we're nitpicking." I see the comments on it. I'm glad to hear you say the Illini fan 365 inside 2004. I'm glad to hear that. But to be honest with you guys, it's like they are better. This team is better. And what's really weird about it, Mike, you had like a little animal or something.
Yeah, man, we just got a dog.
I think it looks like a little rat. I'm just kidding. This team looks different. And what's really weird about it is Keaton Wagler. I mean, you just know that at crunch time, and I don't want to be negative, but last year Casper started the season off good, but he turned the ball over too much. None of us think that with Keaton. We know that something's going to happen. He's going to make a great pass. So Tommy's right. This team is built different. And it was good to hear Jess Settle say, now maybe it was just because he's in Champaign to make the Illinois fans happy, because Jess is a good friend of mine, so people know this. But they do have the potential to go to the Final Four. I think if they get a 3 seed, I'm going to like their chances. Anything over a 4 seed, I'll be concerned about.
Yeah, I think the seeding is so important for 2 reasons. One, obviously, it just gives you an easier path, and then the second thing is if you can make it past the first weekend of the Sweet 16, the recruiting implications are massive. And Larry talks about that as a former CNN anchor. He talks about all the different articles and video features, votes on TV and streaming that will be done on the teams that have that extra week and get that focus on them. So yeah, that's where you want to be. You want to make the Sweet 16, not for the number. The number doesn't mean anything, but for the headlines you get and that extra coverage, et cetera, because the people who watch the NCAA tournament are high school recruits. A lot of these guys don't watch as much basketball during the season, but once the Big Ten tournament, once the tournaments and particularly the NCAA starts, they start tuning in. So that's a great time to do that. And let's go into one other thing, I guess. We saw, looking at Boswell today, I thought he had less of an offensive focus, but it seemed like he was in the middle of a lot of things. You need a key rebound. You need a key assist. It seemed like he was the guy there doing that.
Today, we obviously seen every game, and defensively today he really stood out. I mean, he was a difference maker, I thought, on defense. And for the people who haven't had a chance to see online about his preparation, the work that goes into playing defense, and I'll give you a quick snapshot of it. He talked about picking up tendencies from players, what they like to do when they go left, when they go right, how many times if they go left they can't go back right to make a certain move. And I think today, when you look at Minnesota, I think they got careless with the ball a couple of times and they jumped the gaps a few times. He did a really good job of that. It's so easy to take him for granted because you have a guy like Keaton Wagler out there scoring, and then you see Zonomer blocking shots, and you want to see Big Tommy make threes, and you never know what David's going to do. I don't know why I say David. It's David. What he's going to do from time to time. So Stojakovic is exciting, once he gets it going. So you don't want to take Colin Boswell for granted, because what he does is very, very important to this team. I don't think they would be where they are without him right now, to be honest with you. And he's obviously playing like a senior, like it's his last game, and he wants that shot. And I don't blame him. I mean, I don't want to say it will be a miserable season if Illinois didn't go to at least Sweet 16 or Final 8. That would be tough because they do deserve it. We can talk about how many points they average, how good they are at the free throw line, how tall they are. That doesn't matter. I mean, the upsets happen. So I like the team. I think they're playing better defense too. We have not spent a lot of time on that. give kudos to Coach Kim Crocker. He mentioned to me when I went down to media day that it's going to take a while because the memory of what these kids are used to doing for so long is tough. And he said it's going to take a long time. So defensively, they've gotten a lot better. And for the people out there who talk about how many points they give up, I can't tell you how many times you've seen a player, Minnesota's guard, I think his name, number 10, I believe. He made 3 shots with the shot clock running down. That's not bad defense. That's just tipping your hat to the guy on offense. It was just better offense is what they say.
Yeah, and I think early on, Crocker, I think he just got advantage of I mean, I know he's not a huge 3-point threat. Coming into the game, I mean, he shot 34%, so he's somebody you definitely have to look for, but it's not like he's, Steph Curry out there. And I think Stojakovic, it looked like he kind of just gave him too much room, and that's something that guys got to figure out pretty quick in a game. But as Brandon says, you don't want to let somebody gain confidence early in a game, and that was kind of that. We'll talk about this more with Brad, but right now, Mason Martin of Neoqua Valley, he is right now on the circuits. He's probably, at least statistically, the best, one of the best 3-point shooters in the country, if not the top one. Ked, did you have any thoughts on what he has ability to do?
Well, I spoke with him last night. I don't know if you know that or not, if you've seen that, but yes, it was really interesting. I spoke with him before, and I'm not comparing, but I'll have to use this analogy because, when I talked to him last night and I wrote this for Illini guys, but I'm not going to tip my hat and give all the information out here. But one of the things I will say, and I'm not comparing again, is that I don't want to say he's fallen under the radar. He's had some decent offers, but I'm going to tell you some of the better teams in the Big Ten were starting to call him, or I guess in Division I basketball. Illinois got a steal with this kid. I will tell you, he put up 41 points in the game this year already. And when you look at him, he's your typical today's version of Illinois basketball, a 6'6", 6'7" kid that can shoot the basketball from anywhere in the court. It was a nice pickup. Illinois assistant coach Hamer was the lead recruiter with him, and they've developed a relationship. And he's seen enough to where he fell in love with Illinois. And today's playing in a tournament. Again, I put all this in the article. This is why you want to subscribe to our site, is to get this information. But he just really, really, he knew. And he said his parents and the coaching staff refused to take their foot off the pedal. They were going to see him play. They were constantly calling him, and then seeing him in person. And then now Illinois, knowing the fact that other schools, and one of the schools was really starting to turn the heat up, was Minnesota. Minnesota was really turning the heat up because they saw what happened with Keaton Weigler, and Illinois is kind of doing what Brett Bielema does. Brett Bielema talked about the football coach at Illinois. He talked about going out and evaluating talent, and then seeing a kid gets an offer, then all the other schools want to jump in. And that's kind of the same thing with Mason Martin. People are seeing how good he is, and Northwestern is another team that's been kind of on him. So it's not just Illinois. I think when people get caught up with rankings and stars, Keaton Weigler's right now, I don't know. I can't predict the future. This kid probably today, if the NBA draft was today, he would be in the top 15. And I'm not saying that this kid's there, but Illinois found a gem in this kid, and they got a roster full of guys that can shoot the basketball.
Yeah, and Brad Underwood advertised this a long time ago. He wants the size to play positionless basketball, and he wants everybody on the floor to be able to shoot.
Yep.
When you read about a guard that they start the guards at about 6'4", and they can all shoot, he's been real open about this for as long as he's been here. That's what he wants, and it reminded me of those Ohio State teams that were around right when he got here, and they were big, they were all long, they just couldn't necessarily shoot, but they were a real pain in the butt to play, because you had 6'6", 6'7" guys, and and Illinois had 6'1", 6'2" guards trying to shoot over the top of them. Now, Ohio State never had the coaching, and they never could get the full roster together to fully take advantage of that. But I think Underwood saw that, and like, okay, if I can get some better players and I can coach them better, gonna do pretty well. And then here we've got basically the biggest team in the country right now. So that is that's something you have to think about it.
Yeah. Well,
And
Mike, I mean, how many times did Just Settle say today, who do you guard? Everybody on the floor. Think about this. Everybody on that floor can shoot it at all times. There's no liabilities.
Yep, I'm totally with you. And oh, wait a minute, he's back. So we would agree. You really want to get to the Sweet 16 for reasons we've talked about multiple times, and so you want to get the Sweet 16, and of course you have to get in every year to have a chance to make a run. And we saw where Bill Self, had the back-to-back years where they lost to Bucknell and Belmont, and people thought he was going to get fired at Kansas. And then the next year he wins the title largely because Calipari can't coach. But ultimately you have to have that. And we have talked how Merck and Tomey killed Minnesota. And I think that is a key, because when you get all these guys contributing, Merck was hitting from outside. People forget he's 6'9" because he's always standing next to Tomislav and to Big Z. That makes him a load on the court, and that's why he can drive on people, even though he may not be the quickest guy in the world.
Yeah, Mike, I heard everything you said, but this comment by Dave here, I don't know. He's right. I've never noticed it as much, but the hook and holes as much. It's really weird because you see a lot more of it. And I know it's an advantage. And I'm going to tell you, people get, I obviously talk a lot about the officiating, but I thought Illinois got away with a gift today because I thought that one on Keaton Wagler was a clear hole to me. To me, it was. I'm not going to sit because I have on some orange Kool-Aid glasses. Fouls, I see it, and I thought Illinois got away with one. And it would have been tough because they could have got 2 free throws, hit a 3. That's what typically happens to Illinois. So I don't know. I see that right there. I saw that. I can't tell where I'm from, man. I don't want people to know my secrets. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'm. He's probably closer to down here in Texas where I'm from, or where I'm at, I should say. Not from.
I'm 15 hours. What am I? 15 hours away from you?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. Via a nice, beautiful, scenic car drive.
Well, I have family all over the country. I have family in Texas, Michigan, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois. They're all over California. So we could be related somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, point being, Mike, a good win. Next week, I think the next game is against Maryland at home. That team has been a thorn in their side. I want to see them not do what they've typically done against Maryland and try to turn the tide with them. I'd like to see Andrei Stojakovic gets going. I don't want to say I'm concerned about him, but I want to see him be more involved in the offense. You mentioned Ben-Hur Rickhouse because that 3 spot was kind of non-existent today. Ben-Hur Rickhouse didn't score at all, and that's a position I think that we definitely need to get going. And if all fails, you really and truly could put Keaton Wagler there. If you play Petrovic and Colin Boswell at the same time, you could slide Keaton over to the 3 spot because he is 6'6". Is it his normal spot, traditional spot? No, but could you imagine if the ball wasn't in his hand and he was just a catch and shoot shooter? Man, that'd be dead. He wouldn't be a valuable asset to the NBA because he's great with the ball in his hand. But I'll tell you what, he can provide some offense if somebody wasn't scoring at the wing position.
Yeah, he definitely. That's one of the things he does well is he hits the open 3. That's what Illinois needs to really take this to the next level. Is you've got this size, you just need to be able to knock down the shots. And in a game where they end up shooting 37% from the 3, they're going to be hard to beat by anybody just because of that.
Mike, I'm going to tell you, if I'm coaching Illinois, I'm telling you, I'm going to start the game in the zone every time because Illinois, if the first half, they couldn't put it in the ocean. And people were saying they were bad shots. They were wide open. They just weren't making shots. And that is a part of basketball. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Ben-Hur Rickhouse was wide open. Tommy missed a couple easy shots. If I'm playing them, but if they're hot, I'm getting out of the zone right away. Then you're going to have to pay the price for them being a good shooting team. But for right now, and that 1-3-1 is kind of weird because maybe it was Northwestern. Somebody else did that to them to slow them down. They don't maybe it was Iowa. They don't particularly do well in that offense. I'm not 100% sure, but if it was me, I would zone them a little bit more and prove to me that they can shoot. What is this? Oh my! Yes, he did.
Yeah, the 4-step drive. I got to be honest with you. I just figured that's basketball. This is a weird moment, but I thought the game was pretty well ref. So
this is weird for both of us because I complain more than you do. I know I do, but I'm not. Today I had. What was it to complain about? Yeah, he traveled. You know what? I thought Ken Rockler got away with the whole too. Oh my gosh, Ben Who Breakhouse. I feel bad for that kid because people say that to me all the time. When I get text messages, that's the name they give him. And you know what stinks about it with him? There's nothing wrong with his shot. Beautiful arch, release, rotation, shooting it from the pocket. It looks good. Just doesn't go in all the time.
Yeah. That's a challenge of that one has. Looking at the team, let's pivot a little bit. Any thoughts on as we're waiting for Brad? Any thoughts on Junior Day that is going on down in Champaign? Because I really think we're starting to see a higher level of player come in to and give Illinois football a look than what we saw pre-Bielema days. When it was just like, does this guy if he has a pulse, maybe we should get him to play for us. And now all of a sudden we're starting to get guys who are 4-stars. We're starting to get guys that other schools want to keep recruiting even after they've tried to kind of shut down their recruiting. Any overall impressions of the talent level that Brett Bielema is starting to attract to Champaign?
Well, Mike, when you win, that's what happens. And when you win, if you continue to build the momentum, you and I, we talk about Kurt Signetti all the time, and he is building and he is capitalizing on it. He's doing it at a much faster pace than not just Illinois, but a lot of schools, not just them. So we can't sit and say that, Illinois is going to be left behind. But you asked about Junior Day, I was able to get privy to a pretty decent list. They have some really good guys in today. One of the guys, the headline is Braden Parks from Chicago. Brother Rice is a guy that they brought in, but we have a list on our message board. Committed quarterback Camden Lopati, 6'3" quarterback from Utah. He's on campus today, and they brought him in today to help recruit because the 2027 class is who the juniors are, and that's who they brought in today. I think Illinois football is going to be fine. It's kind of weird, Mike. I'm just not used to this. I'm not used to seeing Illinois be good and competitive in all sports. I'm just not, because traditionally you've seen one be bad, you've seen one struggle, and this is different because the coaches that they brought in, Brad Unum has been here for 9 years, and he's obviously turned the men's program around. Brad Bielema has proven to us right now that he's going to bowl games back-to-back, and he's breaking records. Shauna Green is 14-4 right now in the Big Ten, and people picked them to finish anywhere from 10 to 15, and her team is ranked right now, even though they got beat by Michigan the other day. They're continuing to build, Mike, and they're bringing in some of the top talent, and they're bringing in kids that are interested. And so I want to make this point since you asked about recruiting. Some kids get into the portal from other schools that they've contacted Illinois. I'm telling you, they wanted to come to Illinois, whether it be football, men's, women's basketball. Sometimes it's not a good fit. And so you don't hear about those stories. Because I'll get messages from parents, Twitter or X, whatever it is, it's changed a lot. And I'm a little disappointed. I've had messages from, parents and kids, players asking me, can you call the coaches? Can you get in contact with the coaches? Please let me know. Because I want to go to school there. I'm kind of curious to know, Mike, the comment about discipline with Destiny Jackson, if you don't mind, if we don't talk about that. I'm kind of curious to know what he means by that, or she means by that.
I'm assuming on the court, but I've got another one. Here's a subject we're not going to talk about. Thanks, Leroy. Wife stuff to worry about back home. I'm not certain that that's affecting his 3-point accuracy, but then we do get the follow up, and I never had my 3-point was never worth that. So my 3-point percentage was never worth the trying to reproduce. So I can't speak to that. We'll leave that for speculations through the ages.
I had to mute the mic to laugh and not cough in the microphone when I saw that, because I think reading between the lines, I think I know what the message is about. But anyway, moving forward, the point to answer your question, they're bringing in great recruits. And like I said to you, you go back to the basketball situation. They got a commitment last night. And Ethan Brown, the kid from Rolla, Missouri, who's I heard who's having one of the best years and is just a stud. I talked to him. He's averaging over 23, 24 points a game. Landon Davis is a kid from Iowa. I have a friend who coaches soccer at the same high school that he's at up in the Des Moines area. And they think he's going to be he's a good player, obviously a Big Ten player, but will he come in and make an impact right away? Given the competitions there, it's going to be kind of tough. But Ethan Brown, I've heard, is just outstanding. And then, like you said, we haven't talked about Lucas Murillo, the guard out of the East Coast. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget, and this is what you love about Illinois. Yeah, you love about Illinois athletics, and then you 6'6", another guy that can come in and do it all. So, just another really, really good class. And Brad Underwood wants guys that can shoot. That's what they're going after. So if you look at some of the recruits out there and who they are going after and who they get to commit, keep in mind every coach has their own system, and this is Illinois right now.
Yeah, I think ultimately we will see. We're talking about portal. I saw St. Dominic's Rosary. I will say that you always have to decide, with the problem with that is Illinois, lost a couple young defensive linemen to other programs. And so the edge that you have to get in the portal is, do I tell a kid that, hey, we're going to pay you X, and when you have a good year, we're going to bump it up? The risk on that, having them earn their way in, is that all you need is one other school to call up that kid and say, I'll pay you that right up front. No problem. And so it's so hard. I don't envy these coaches having to try to figure out who is going to do what, because, again, it'd be one thing if you're just trying to talk to that kid one-on-one and talk to them about their decision-making process. But the reality is other schools are calling that kid's parents and saying, we'll give you this much, we'll give you that much. And so it's really I got to be honest with you, these college coaches, I know they make a lot of money and people don't have a lot of sympathy because they make, $4 to $8 million a year. But, man, trying to get your roster together and you got this much of a budget and your guys are being talked to by opposing coaches all the time, it has got to be just a nightmare to try to figure out those type of things.
Well, Mike, you look at the Illinois quarterback, Camden. Illinois goes to play Tennessee in a bowl game. 6 days prior, they offer Illinois commit quarterback, Camden a scholarship. It is tough. Just to your point, they have to win games, and coaches want to win games, and that's part of the recruiting that that you're going to get. There, the traveling man is.
There he is, Mr. Sturdy. We have a Sturdy sighting.
How's it going?
That's good. So Brad, give us your impressions on the game today, of what you saw out there, and I thought it was impressive that Illinois went on a run. Got the game out to 11 points, and then Minnesota, to their credit, answered, and Illinois answered right back, and that gave them the wind under their sails that maybe helped them through some of their press problems.
Yeah, don't you? I really feel like they competed really well. There were some times I thought they struggled in the first half, being stagnant and things like that. But they battled through some difficult things. I thought Minnesota in the second half, Illinois kind of shored up the defense a little bit, and then they hit a couple of step backs and fadeaways with guys on them, and then you just that puts you're in a bind, right? I mean, so you got to battle through it, and it was impressive. I think, Z gets a lot of publicity he was fantastic off the bench. I thought he was active on the offensive glass, and obviously he's the best rim protector around. But then I thought the other thing was Mihailo Petrovic was just fantastic in his, he only played 6-7 minutes, but he made an impact in those minutes. It was interesting ironically, before the game, I actually talked to Coach Orlando Antigua a little. I was talking to him a little bit about Petrovic. I mean, that was kind of our talk, and we even said like, "Hey, and we both agreed that he's going to win a game for Illinois at some point this year." Little did we know it would be in about 30 minutes. These are weird things that happen, and it's just there's a guy who had to bide his time. He's battled, whether it's a language barrier, whether it's the hamstring issues, it's the fact that, Illinois has one of the best freshmen in the country who's emerged. All those things went against him, but yet here's a guy who just been biding his time. He's still working in the gym, getting healthy, getting stronger, adjusting the physicality of this and adjusting, not playing 30 plus minutes a game every night, which is what he's used to. And then he steps in and just does a fantastic job in that final 3:12 of the first half. I thought he gave them exactly what he wanted. He gave them a great lift.
Yeah, and I think for the first time, maybe you might disagree with me, but for the first time, his time on the court, he actually earned more time the next game because he made a huge difference. And there was no yeah but moment. Yeah, but what about that turnover? Yeah, what about this? I thought he just played within himself for the first time all year.
No question. I totally agree with that. And the other thing, I mean, maybe the Alabama game, I thought he came in and gave a spark, but then, kind of some negative things later on. He didn't have any of those. And this is one of those things where, I asked Brad about it after the game, and he said he hopes that this will give him that confidence. You know what I mean? To kind of go in there because he had been frustrated with himself, but he's been a great teammate. And Brad talked about it post-game, how good he's been at battling through the kind of some adversity here. And that shows, it shows his maturity, and he's older. He understands the goal is to win the game, and he wants to be a part of that. So the other thing, Mike, was I do have to question. Like, I think Nico Medved does a fantastic job. I think he's an excellent coach. They were up 6 points, 32-26, with 3:12 to go in the first half. Illinois had just been throwing up bricks against that zone, getting bad shots. All of a sudden, they went man-to-man with Petrovic coming in, and I just didn't get it. I didn't understand that. And he stayed man-to-man the rest of the first half.
Thank God.
No, it was good for Illinois because Petrovic against man-to-man is – you talk to the coaches and Ked and I both talk to the coaches a lot, and they can't guard Petrovic in practice, keep him out of the lane. He may miss a shot or he may do this, may throw it away, whatever. But the dude can just get in the lane at will. And so you get against a man-to-man defense like that, he's just taking that ball screen, turn the corner, whatever. Or if you step out on him, he hit Z on a couple rolls. He actually set up 2 baskets there that he didn't get assists for. So, it was really impressive. I also liked his defense. So, I didn't understand Medved doing that. I'm not saying he's not a good coach, whatever, but I just felt like that was not the time because Illinois had been struggling. It's time when sometimes we as coaches, we outsmart ourselves. We're going to, we'll trick them coming out of the timeout, or whatever.
Well, Brad, so I don't know if you know or not, but so how in football the first 15 plays are scripted? He does the same thing. He does this all the time. I mean, was it at a bad time? Yes, it was. I wouldn't have done it either. I thought to myself, you're crazy because you're keeping yourself in the game by playing in the zone, which we talked about. But some coach, he'll do that every game. When I watched him when they played Iowa, he'll do that and then he'll get out of it. So it's just something that they want to throw at teams to give them a look and then get out of it, regardless of the game. And I wouldn't do it, but it worked out for Illinois' advantage today. But I've seen them play enough to know this isn't the first team that he's done that against.
He'll figure out at some point when something is not broken. You don't need to try to fix it, but that takes a while sometimes. Youth is wasted on the young. Brad, the other thing we talked about is Merkovich and Tomislav. They combined for all of their 22 points after halftime. Anything that you noticed there because I thought both of them really played well in the second half.
Well, they really in the first half, Merk was really having a hard time. Merkovich really having a hard time against the zone, like where to go. Didn't know whether he was supposed to be at the high post, in the dunker spot, in the short corner or whatever, on the wing, and so he's just like they're like go over here. He was struggling to find it, and so you just no rhythm. Well, in the second half, they ran a lot of their man offense, and so Tommy got his pick and pops that he gets. Tommy, and then Merck was able to get things more like he does against a man-to-man offense. As a pick and pop, he hit a pull-up, kind of a transition type action, secondary break type action there early in the second half. So, yeah, I think that they got more comfortable against the zone. So, and that allowed them to kind of get going. The other thing was you saw Merck really attack the glass. And I swear that I think sometimes that energy is a big part of the success, right? You come in and play with energy. Z started the game. When he first came in, he's grabbing offensive rebounds, keeping balls alive, and so forth. That makes you bring that energy, and then boom, he nails the three. So that's what you want to see from those guys, is kind of be in that mode.
Yeah. Will the Illini see more zone in the next month than what they would have before this game? Now that coaches have seen that and said, hey, it slowed them up a bit. Is that something that Illinois might see a little bit more of, or do you think that teams are just going to do what they do?
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of times we say that, because it slowed up, it doesn't look as good, but Illinois scored on a points per possession basis. They scored just as well against the zone as they always do. They actually moved up offensively today. So although the pace of the game was slower, and sometimes it looks discombobulated, it didn't look good, they still scored. And I think that's one thing, like a lot of people, like they're used to running, like, it's like back in the day, they're running the Bob Knight motion offense and all this cutting and screening, and they want to have that offense and so forth. A lot of it is like, but you got to look at the numbers. If you're scoring, you're scoring. Points don't count more because you ran good offense to get them, or you ran a bunch of screens to get the guy open. No, points still count the same. And I think that's where we get kind of caught up. And so I don't think they're going to see a ton of it. There are certain teams that will do it. I mean, like Purdue's not going to play a bunch of zone against Illinois because they play man-to-man. Yeah. So, and Michigan State's not going to play a bunch of zone against Illinois. I'm just, so it's going to be different. And I think they're shooting, the first half they really struggled shooting. The second half you saw them knock down those threes. When they're making threes like that, I mean, they're very, very, it's really hard to guard them because they can get them, with their offensive sets.
Yeah. And especially when you got 6'9" and 7'1" guys hitting threes, makes it a whole different cup of tea. Switching gears a little bit, we had a little bit of a discussion earlier in the podcast, but I wanted to get, with your background and stuff, Ked gave us his opinion, but talk a little bit about the latest commitment that Illinois got in the basketball side about Mason Martin of Neoqua Valley.
Yeah, Neoqua Valley sharpshooter Mason Martin. So he played with breakaway basketball on the circuit last summer. And over the course of the summer, he was in shooting off of screens. He was the number one player in the country. So the best shooter in the country shooting off screen. So you're talking about a guy who can not just, obviously, he's a great shooter on the catch and shoot. He can stand still, shoot it. But you also get a guy who can run off of screens and he can catch on the move, square, and shoot. And he has a lightning quick release, 6'5". I just really my player comp for him since I saw him the first time in the summer was Fletcher Lawyer from Purdue. He's 6'5" though, but he's a guy. You watch Lawyer, they run him off screens. Now it's not always going to be he's not always going to make the shot. He's not always going to get open coming off the screen. But here's the deal: when you really worry about that guy coming off screens, it opens up everything else. Like today, a lot of the cuts that Minnesota set up and Cade Tyson coming off those screens, it opens up other guys. And that's where Martin can be a guy who can be a guy who defenses will gravitate a little bit to him because he's such a dangerous shooter. And that's where Illinois, sees him. He's a foundation piece. He and Quentin Kitt in 27. And then, the 26 class with Murillo and then Ethan Brown, who was at the game today. Fantastic player. So, as well. So, yeah. It was that's where I like him a lot as a piece. Is he going to be a first team All-American? Probably not. But is he going to be a piece who can really be an effective player in Illinois? Yeah, I mean, if he has a career like Fletcher Lawyer, I think we'd all take that, right?
Yeah, and I think, the other question that people are asking me to convey to you is what the heck is up with Ben Humrichhaus's shot recently. And we've had some crazy solutions to that problem, but we'll leave those for the comments.
He's struggling. I feel like he's struggling. Like his first shot today, I thought was a really good look, clean look, had a good release, and it went in and out.
Yeah.
Well, then I think, his next shot was he got the offensive rebound and actually kicked it out, and I thought he rushed it a little bit and was off, and then he had another good look, and it kind of goes in and out. It's right there. So he missed all three, and I think that's the issue right now. He's got to make some shots because he has improved immensely as a rebounder and a passer and defender, but he's not making the same shots that he has made throughout his entire life. So, it's one of those things like when you're a guy coming off the bench, there are going to be days when things are great and you have great days. There are also going to be days when it doesn't click and it doesn't work. But there's going to be a game, just like Petrovic today. There's going to be a game when Ben Hummerkaus comes in and gets hot and hits 3 or 4 threes and it works. So that's just part of basketball. So it's it's part of it. It's tough, but he's got to. He's in the gym and he's working and he makes them when he's in oven. But now he's got to make that. He's just got to stay confident, and I think that's the hard part for guys when you're missing. There aren't many guys that don't have a conscience when it comes to shooting. There are a few, but that most players, when they start missing, they start questioning things and so forth. And so I think he's just got to stay confident and then rise up and knock down a couple, and then everything will go right, and he'll feel a lot better.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's actually smart enough to analyze what's going on. Sometimes you need that guy who's just maybe the elevator doesn't go up high enough to realize that there should be some introspection.
You mean the guy who keeps shooting, and then you have to tell him, "Hey, there's the reason you're open."
Yeah, exactly. So one last thing before we let you go. I know you're commuting. And people marvel at your ability to commute, eat, and podcast all at the same time. But the things people notice. But anyway, the question that I had, is there anything on Junior Day that stood out to you? I personally think the quality of player that's being attracted now is much higher than what we saw when we started Illini guys over 5 years ago. But you're obviously more of a recruiting guru than I'll ever be. What are your just general top line thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think the one thing you notice is there's not the huge numbers. I mean, 15 guys or something like that. And it's not like, back in the day, Zook used to bring in I feel like they were bringing in 50, 60 guys. I mean, maybe it wasn't that many. It sure seemed like that many. But they're really focused on in-state. One out-of-state kid from Kentucky, but mostly in-state guys they wanted to get on campus in 2027, that they could meet, talk to, get to know better, and really sell the program to. So I think it was really effective in that regard, and I think that focus, you can tell. I will say Lapati is definitely a kid. I know you guys were talking a little about him. He had Art Sikowski sitting next to him the entire game, and Barry Lenny sitting in the same row. So with his family, so it was they definitely want him. They want to hold on to that. And he reaffirmed. Zeno has a nice story with him on IlliniGuys.com, where he reaffirmed his commitment. Like he's heard from all the people he listened, but Illinois is home. So really good to see that. And then, I think there's a list of all the guys on IlliniGuys.com. I think they're sitting very well with the guys they had on campus. Obviously, there's a couple guys that are going to be tough to get just because they've got offers from, everybody, around the country. So, but at the same time, you want to get if you're not missing on guys, then you're not recruiting the right guys, right?
Yep.
Yes,
Mr. Self.
Yes. And they also got another, a defensive line commit, which I think we all know they needed. So that's a good thing as well. And so in the portal, so that's a good thing. And I don't know, Ethan Brown was there on campus, the basketball recruit 2026. First time he's seen a game at the State Farm Center. He did see Illinois playing the Bragging Rights game, but this is the first time he saw him in the State Farm Center. And he was very happy, obviously, and talked about his season a little bit. He's really having a good year. Brad talked about a play the other night. I was watching him, and he bounced off the guy's back on the inbounds, grabbed it, and went up and did a two-hand dunk. So, It's nice that he's averaging, but I think Brad said he's averaging about 40 since the break. I don't think it's quite 40, but still, it's like he's averaging like 26, I think, for the season, and he does a little bit of everything. It's funny. He told me that all summer, when they were recruiting him, they said, they were comparing him to, like a player like Keaton Wagler. And so I asked him, I said, does that mean like, you kind of look at that and see his success, and does it kind of open he said, yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't put that kind of pressure to be, Keaton Wagler's freshman, but he said, it shows that he can come in and compete and play a role as a freshman, and that they feel, think that highly of him, that they put him in that same class. So it was, it was really good. He's a great kid, fantastic player. He's one of my faves in this, that they brought in the last few years. So.
No, that's good. That's good. So, and folks, this is the type of stuff you get on IlliniGuys.com. So feel free to go over there. 27 cents a day also provides us the expenses to be able to cover and send people out. We are a credentialed media outlet. So don't let the fact that we're internet based, fool you. But so we send people to the games, and it does cost money in the bigger Big Ten. There are days that we wish it was back to the old Big Ten where everywhere was just a little drive away. That's not the case anymore. And certainly if you're looking, you can follow me, Ked, Brad, or the Illini guys, or all of us, and get the best of recent Illini and Big Ten and college sports news. And we also branch into movies and guy stuff. We'll even go into like what we're watching on Netflix and things like that. We try to watch things that don't cause any emotional response. So we just
except for Illinois basketball and football.
Yes, which can do that, and we haven't complained about the even Ked didn't complain about the refs. So
that's a first.
Yeah, it was a good day today. So we love having everybody on, and of course Leroy is reminding us that we do have the game room, which is pretty cool because our subscribers then get in there and they can talk real life as the game goes on, which can be for some of the more entertaining moments in Illini Guys history have occurred on the game room.
It is not for the faint of heart, though.
No, it's not.
Warning.
No, it's not. And until the movies come up, what do you mean? You don't like our movie reviews? It's movies for guys who have no emotional depth. That's our movies. But anyway, we will be back, of course, as you can. Next Wednesday is the Maryland game. Illinois has struggled with Maryland, although we'll see how Buzz does against Brad. Maybe Brad can start off a new coach by owning him and taking that particular team off the list of problem schools. And we'll see how.
By the way, did Juwan Howard get a job at Tennessee or Kentucky? How did that work? I saw that fight today. How did that work?
I do not.
No Juwan Howard? No. I'm just
wrong. Yeah, wrong one. Yeah, well, I keep waiting for Dusty to slap somebody on the other opposing side. It hasn't happened yet. But anyway.
At least you weren't going to have Pope and Pope, who's like, really big, and then Rick Barnes, who's like 107. No, I don't think they were going at it today. So
yeah. I would. One would hope not. Although then you find out, who knows? You unleash the tiger and Rick.
Yeah, you might not want that.
All right, folks. So we are definitely running out of material. We're getting into old jokes now. So we will be back, of course, for that Maryland game. So please be looking for us. And until then, go Illini.